And North Carolina's voter ID law is being challenged by the U.S. Department of Justice. The department filed suit Monday arguing that the new law requiring voters to show a photo ID violates the Voting Rights Act. Arise News legal contributor Seema Iyer is here in the studio to explain this and a few other things. Hey, Seema, always good to see you.
How are you?
Now, we spent a whole lot of time this summer talking about this landmark Supreme Court controversial decision.
We were actually together right here.
When it came
in, yes.
Absolutely, which struck down Section 4, one of the key parts of the Voting Rights Act.
Right,
Okay.
exactly, the pre-clearance. So you and I sat here expecting a decision on Section 5. The whole country was waiting for a decision on Section 5, but in fact, they struck down Section 4, which is the pre-clearance to get to Section 5.
For all of these regions in the country and states in the country that had a history of what would we call it?
Voter discrimination.
Voter discrimination. Okay, so now a few things have happened. So let's just catch up. What has happened since this landmark decision?
Well, since this decision, the Department of Justice has really been actively involved. And Obama administration, frankly, is putting themselves forward to say, Supreme Court, we don't agree with you, starting with Texas. So again, the same issue with Texas. Texas had these new voter identification laws, and Department of Justice is challenging that because Debbie, all of these states are Republican controlled. So it starts off as a legal issue, but then it's translated into quite a political one.
And in this case, I don't know that you know all the numbers. I don't want to put you on the spot here, but with the North Carolina law and what they're requiring, what portion of the voting public does it affect in North Carolina?
Well, that is an interesting question because the government is claiming, North Carolina is claiming, we're trying to protect this voter fraud, right? But soon after they implemented this law, which was about a month ago, and again, there's a few provisions, but mostly what we're concerned about is voter identification because that prevents minorities mostly from voting, and that can be discriminatory. So the other civil rights groups, they got involved before the Department of Justice. For example, the Advancement Project, as well as the NAACP of North Carolina, and they're saying this isn't a significant problem. So when you ask how much of the population is affected, it's really just the minorities. And frankly, I think it's kind of disingenuous. You know, when the decision came down, it seemed that the Supreme Court was saying this is an antiquated notion. You know, we're trying to correct Jim Crow South. And that was so long ago. We're talking about the 60s. Things have changed. But, Debbie, it's been a few months since the decision came, and we're right back to what seems like a discriminatory practice.
I believe it was Justice Scalia who said that we had moved past that time in history, and clearly we haven't. Very quickly, and I want to talk about something else before I let you go. What is the legal basis that the Department of Justice is bringing this suit against North Carolina?
So they're bringing it against 4 provisions of the North Carolina voting law. The first one, the most significant, is that the North Carolina government is going to require identification from the voters. So that's the main one. That's what Texas had. That's the significant one. The other provisions they're challenging are they're trying to challenge the elimination of the early voting period, the first 7 days. They're trying to challenge the elimination of early voting registration during that early period. And then they're also challenging certain prohibitions on provisional ballots that happen outside the county. So that's but again, voter ID is the main issue.
That's the main issue.
And just one more thing, really important, is that what the DOJ is trying to do is reinstate the pre-clearance. Meaning, if you're going to change your law, you have to get federal approval. That's the most important takeaway
They're
today.
trying to put it back block by block.
Exactly.
All right, very quickly, let's get to another very important topic that you wanted to talk about, and that is, it's called the New York Court Gender Fairness Commission, right? Or Sex Crimes Court.
Right.
What is this and what does it do?
I'm a founding member of the New York Court System's Gender Fairness Committee, and one of the issues that we've really been passionate about and trying to promulgate is that sex trafficking should be examined outside the box. Before, what happens is prostitutes get arrested and then they get prosecuted, and no one is really examining what's happening behind the scenes with the prostitutes. Debbie, even though prostitution is known as the oldest profession, it's turned into modern-day slavery. And what this movement has done is it creates units in all of the district attorney's offices in New York to handle just sex trafficking. And these courts, the judges, the defense attorneys, the prosecutors, the staff, the social workers, they will all work together and try to investigate and uncover sex trafficking that's happening in our city. And this is a model now for the rest of the country.
And what's so interesting to me is that the model here then treats a prostitute as a victim.
Right. And it is a case-by-case basis. And there are some prostitutes who work for themselves. But the reason, Debbie, you have these young girls, young,
Yes.
13, 14, 15, and you have to open your eyes to why is this girl here and why is she doing it? So she will still be prosecuted, but there are programs, vocational, protection, shelter, education,
abuse.
substance abuse, exactly. So
Yeah.
all of these things will be, and again, you're trying to target the bigger issue, which is the sex trafficking.
The human trafficking.
You don't really need to prosecute a little 13-year-old, but maybe you need to prosecute the violent, egregious pimps out there.
Absolutely.
And that's the goal.
Well, good job. I know you've worked on that for a long time. Seema Iyer, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And you are watching Arise America.